So hello and welcome, I'm Frederick Dunn and this is The Way to Bee. Today we're going to talk about entrances that are designed to stop the queen from getting out of a hive. And we're going to look at several different designs, and I've had questions myself about these, whether or not they can actually allow the queen to go through. So this is a long video, and I hope you'll stick around and see what happens. We're going to talk about the landing board entrance queen excluders, and the UV version that we just showed you in this brand new top bar hive, which I need to prevent this swarm from departing from, which historically it's been very difficult to keep bees in a new hive that's made out of all new materials, and this particular top bar hive still smells just like the carpenter shop. You can smell the pine. Now I did take some top bars from my other top bar hive. There was a small colony of bees at the opposite end of the current occupying colony, and so there were some drawn comb there, and I put those on here. So I think I have 4 or 5 top bars that have comb on them, but the rest just have beeswax lining the underside of the top bars, and this is a tough sell when you're putting a swarm in. Now you may be wondering what part of the country this is. This is the northeastern part of the United States in the state of Pennsylvania. And this is a nice hot day, by the way. It is almost 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So as usual, I collect swarms out of the trees. I put them in 7-gallon translucent buckets. I put a queen excluder on top of the bucket, and then I set that setup right in front of the hive I hope that they'll go into. Now this gives me a lot of opportunities to manage the bees. So you can see the white rim of the bucket there. And I did flip it over, but I was unsuccessful in nabbing the queen, so I'm keeping my eye out for her. And there she is, right on the sidewall of the bucket. Now this is a nice mature looking queen, no great surprise. She has a large swarm with her. So I really don't want to lose them. So I'm going to show you how I install her using this tool, which is very inexpensive. It's called a queen pipe. I just started using these. You get them in packs of 6. They're like $1.25 a piece or something like that. And this has become a very handy tool for me because it's completely transparent. I can see the condition of the queen, make sure she's got all her parts. If she's marked or her wing is clipped or something like that, I can update my notes. I also have the opportunity to take her and mark her if I need to. So knowing that I have the queen, guess what I do here? I put this queen excluder on the entrance. Now what that does before I release the queen into the hive is make sure that she can't get out. Somebody else noticed the queen in my clear pipe here. This is a little male jumping spider. They're all over the place, and I hope that you'll not smash them with your hive tool. This one just wants to check out the bees that I have in the pipe there, and they can't get to them, obviously. So fooled them all the way. Notice it's got a little strand of webbing that comes off its abdomen. That's a safety net that he used right there to go right back to the top bar hive. Why would I leave a jumping spider on the top bar hive? Well, so he can munch any of the wax moths that show up. Now what's going on the outside here? Waggle dances. This means that the swarm, had I not collected the queen and if I didn't put her inside the hive, they're on their way out of here. They would leave. So if the entrance were left wide open, not only could all the drones go in and take all the food they want, which puts a real demand on a brand new colony of bees, but they could also abscond. They can just fly away. So I lifted up one of the top bars in the back there. I released the queen into the hive, closed the top bar back up, and of course I had put the queen includer over the entrance first. So now we're back to the ultraviolet, which is designed to lure swarms into a swarm trap. And so I had it on the entrance of this nucleus-sized hive, which is 2 deeps, 5 deep frames in each, so that's 10 deep frames total. And I was trying to lure a swarm, but since I collected a swarm out of a tree, I'm not waiting for that. So we're going to install them. And the way this is set up, this was part of a study that was published in the American Bee Journal. You could look it up, ultraviolet entrance. And on the right there with a little piece of tissue in it, that was synthetic Nasanov, which is known as Swarm Commander. And that's also to get the interest of scouts when they come close to a hive. In this case, since we're installing a swarm, it doesn't matter anymore. And when I first saw that, by the way, I thought those opening gaps there where the tissue is doubled as a queen excluder, but it doesn't. So I contacted the guy that did the study, that 3D printed the parts with ultraviolet laced material, and asked if he would make a queen excluder sized cap that we could use to retain a swarm and keep them from absconding, and he did. So the openings are 4.2 millimeters, which is a perfect size to allow workers to go through, but queens and drones cannot pass. So we're going to use that to make sure we have no absconds here. And I'm going to show you exactly how I do it. It's pretty straightforward. And once you get these tools settled, this answers my questions, of course. I want to know, now that we have the queen, if we turn her loose, will all the workers be able to get through that tiny ultraviolet entrance? And apparently they can. So we're going to turn it loose here, and you're going to get to see what happens. Now, since I have the queen, I don't need this anymore, so I'm going to put it off to the side. And here's the thing. I want to make this comparison because a lot of people will see my videos because they're slow moving, let's be honest. This is patient beekeeping, this is backyard beekeeping, and people want me to dump the bees in and walk away and be done with it. Okay, let's say we did that. Let's say we dumped all the bees inside this hive, and then we considered them installed, and we just went on to do other things. Well, what keeps your queen from changing her mind and going right back out? Well, the queen can do that at any time and for any reason, and you can lose your swarm. You can come back later and find an empty box. So the whole point of this is, first of all, see the queen go in right there. Of course, she's changed her mind a little bit. She's being fed. She's not decided. So this demonstrates really the queen controls whether or not this colony of bees enters a hive or not. And this is also why you sometimes find a whole cluster outside a hive and not installed at all, and the queen's going to be in the center of that cluster. Very difficult to find her later. So she's being fed right now. She's fed by trophallaxis. The nurse bees are there just to take care of her, to make sure she's in great shape and looked after. She is, after all, the future of this colony. And so she starts scooting away, pushing against these workers, and she will go in. Now you might think, now that she's in, that's the end of it. So we're going to sit back and, just for argument's sake, let's leave everything alone. Let's leave the entrance open. And let's let these bees just pick up on the fact that the queen has gone in, and then we're going to see that Nasanov fanning going. And of course, they're all just going to go in and join the queen because they're anxious to start a new colony. And it's exciting when this happens. So I'm about to demonstrate why I don't just walk away, and also why I feel like I need to see the queen. And in this case, because it is the topic of the video, we're going to use that ultraviolet material, and we're going to test out the queen excluder, which in this case we call the queen includer because it keeps the queen there. So let's just watch for a while, see how the bees communicate to one another. They leave the bucket, they leave the queen excluder that I had over the top of the bucket, and they all go in just as we like to see them doing. The other thing is, a lot of people relax when they see that they've decided to go in, but remember, we directed the queen in there. She did not walk in on her own. And the same can happen when you just take a bucket of bees, dump them in a hive, close the top, and are you just hoping for the best then? I also highly recommend you put a feeder on top of a hive that you've recently installed a swarm in and give them sugar syrup. We have rain coming, stuff like that. But the reason I want you to sit and watch is, first of all, it's good for your health to sit in the company of your bees. Just stare at things, get a comfortable chair, spend some time. See what the bees do, and you'll learn in the process. Look at them. All their Nasanov glands are going. They're just great. They're committed. Now, one of the things, too, if you don't put a queen excluder over this entrance, what else is getting in? The drones. And the drones, nothing wrong with that. But I prefer to block them out. And what we're about to see could have been a problem if you're in a hurry and you walked away. There's the queen right there, scooting right out of the entrance, even though we gave her a perfect location by our standards. 10 frames, double deep, medium nucleus box, should have been enough. It's the classic 10 frame size, which is appealing to most colonies of bees that are in swarm mode. But we're going to have to collect her again, so I'm going to show you how the queen pipe works. You just put it directly over the top of her. It's light in there, so they follow light. She walks right up into it. We put this little sponge in there, and you can even press the bees right up against the interior surface with the sponge, and it does not hurt them. So there's no risk of damaging anything with this collection method. Now she's back in here. What do you think we're going to do to make sure we don't have a repeat of the queen changing her mind and scooting back out of the hive and potentially leaving you with empty bee equipment, which in May 18th specifically, is not what we want to have in our bee yard. So we released her back in there. I didn't have hands free, so of course I had to put the camera down to do that. We're also going to take the cap off of the lure, which again was just a tissue that had a little bit of Swarm Commander on it. Didn't need it because it's a swarm install, not a swarm trap anymore. And I have to take this off because if I want to put the queen includer on, you can't put on both together. So there we go. Let's knock that out of there. And I'm wearing nitrile gloves for those of you who like to do that. The bees can sting through them, but let me tell you, with that nitrile, whether it's white, blue, whatever it happens to be, the bees tend not to sting through it unless you, of course, pinch a bee or push your hand down right on top of it. But what we want to do now is put that queen includer over this because we don't want her to come out again. This is what it looks like. And I was very happy to have that made. And it makes perfect sense now. We could have saved ourselves all this trouble if, when I was first installing the swarm, as soon as I put the queen in, I put that cover on and kept the queen from escaping. Everything would have been great. But, then we would have too many questions. So we have to try both ways. Now she's in. Let's put the cap on. Just enough for thread engagement. We don't need the crunch of death here. We don't need to squish up any bees. I also found that if it's in the horizontal configuration, it's easier for the bees to get through than if these openings were vertical. And again, 4.2 millimeter opening. And they figured it out pretty quick. It looks difficult, but then I start to see the workers going through. And so it demonstrates that it works. Is this ideal? Probably not. But let me tell you what's less than ideal is watching that queen get out. If you look through the open slat here, you can see the queen right up against this entrance. She would really like to leave, and it's our job, for the better good of the bees, of course, to make sure that they're in the hives that we want them in. And we're going to keep her here. So it works. Do the workers get through? Yes. Does it keep the queen from getting out? Yes. Do drones get through? No. What happens to those drones, by the way, if they're blocked out, they can't go in and freeload off of the workers there? Well, they just go on to another hive because drones, male bees, are welcome at every hive in the apiary. They get to go wherever they want. They get fed wherever they are. Now, this queen portal, which is very interesting. This comes from BetterBee. I have always ignored the queen excluder aspect of this. In fact, I've taken them off the front and put my own queen excluders on in the past. And what I did is I caught a swarm. Again, no great surprise. Caught the queen about 30 feet away from where we are right now. And I just, for fun, put the queen, using another queen pipe, of course, right inside this hive. And then I let the bees that are on the wing, because what were they trying to do? They're trying to fly away and go to another location, which is what bees do after their bivouac spot. And they didn't get anywhere because something was missing, and that means the queen. And you can see her through the slats there. So now I'm going to test it out. Do workers get through these BetterBee portals if you set it on the queen excluder setting? And I think you're going to find out pretty darn quick that it works. So why was I not using this all along? It has other settings that just keep bumblebees out. It has settings that will let drones come and go. I don't know why they have that setting, because if a drone can come and go, anything can come and go. But they're scooting right through it. So we have another tool at our disposal. All the nucleus hives that they used to sell came with these portals. Has a vent setting on the right, queen excluder in the center here, and then of course the bumblebee excluder on the left, and you can also have it wide open. So once again, the fun part of this, and you may be bored watching this because it's all in real time, the bees that were on the wing from this swarm that were headed for a new location, they had to circle back because we're missing their queen. And the fun part is that this queen is quite a distance from where they left her. So they're tracking her just through the Nasanov alone, that you can see all the little abdomens are in the air, and they're making sure that they're putting that recall signal out, and the swarm clusters back on her. So if you want to watch this, it's in real time. A lot of fun, highly recommend that you don't skip over it. But if you want to jump ahead to the 24-minute mark, 25-minute mark, we'll move on to the other entrances and the conclusion, of course, of the video. So let me know what you think. Is this a great system or not? I think it is. Now, one thing I think I would do, knowing that I was going to use a portal like this, I might make the entrance hole a little bigger, and then when I'm not hiving a swarm or controlling a queen or something like that, I would be able to just obscure part of it with the open section there, which is what I often do, about 50% of the opening, and that lets me reduce it to reduce robbing and things like that as well. So once again, I will mention that there's nothing wrong with blocking out the drones, and because the first thing to go into this hive was the queen herself, then the drones aren't in there causing a ruckus, begging for food. Now the other thing that we need to know, if we're going to control queens and we're going to put an entrance queen includer on a hive, you need to be aware of whether or not that queen's mated, because if she isn't, she needs to fly out and complete her mating. So I highly recommend putting a resource on the hive like sugar syrup, and I use light sugar syrup 1:1, and in a period of 3 days we generally open up the entrance, and that allows the queen to come out and complete her mating flight if she needs to. It also makes the rest of the work easy on the part of the foraging bees. Now the other advantage to this is, if you had a swarm that had multiple queens in it, and you let them walk in, you collected one of the queens, you put it inside the hive, you use the queen excluder over the entrance, whether any of these designs. If there are other queens, they will end up on the outside of it trying to get in, or they will create their separate cluster and not leave the bucket. So that lets you know you've got another queen. You either have to remove her from that cluster if she's a lesser queen, a tertiary queen, unmated. You can find her, collect her, remove her, and once her pheromone's gone from the mix, the bees that are left in the bucket will then, after about an hour or two, this is a game of patience, they will move in and join the others, because in the absence of their own queen, they will follow the pheromone of any other queen that just happens to be nearby. And this demonstrates pretty clearly they are scooting right through that opening. In fact, I like this queen includer opening a little better than the ultraviolet entrance version. They seem to have much more of a traffic jam on that one than they had with this one. And this is a sizable swarm, as you can see. And right now, you might be wondering, what would these bees get for resources? Let's say we did not feed them. Of course, they leave with resources already in their abdomens. They've got honey with them. They're good to go. They're ready to survive and build new comb. But if we don't feed them, we're in a pickle here, because not only did we get a lot of heat, we've got some rain coming, but the clover has not bloomed yet. So we're coming to the end of the apple trees and resources like that. And we've got lots of dead nettle out there. We've got some self-heal. We've still got a bunch of violets out there. But when the clover starts blooming is when you'll see a real boost in honey resources, which are the carbohydrates for the bees. But they also get a lot of pollen from white clover, and it's Dutch clover and ladino, I believe, this year. So in just a couple of weeks, we're going to see a big boost, and it will be time to super your other hives. But nucleus colonies and brand new hives that we've set up from swarms will then be able to take care of themselves. Oftentimes people look at drone honeybees, and those are the males, and they have a hard time picking them out. They think they're queens. But there are some very distinctive features I want you to notice. First of all, the size of their wings, very large. They run the full length of their abdomen. The thorax is huge, but the biggest marker is, of course, their large heads covered with two large compound eyes. They have 5 eyes total, but 2 large compound eyes that come together with no gap in between them at the top. And these drones, of course, are frustrated. They can't get in. And don't worry about them. They're not going to starve out. They're just going to go to other colonies, as I mentioned before, and they're going to be fed. It does help out if you use an entrance queen excluder that also excludes drones, because when a new colony moves in and they're trying to get situated, there's no reason to have a bunch of drones in there just being fed. Those resources are necessary to get the colony started up and going strong. And drones have a tendency to just join in with any swarm that happens to be moving. So don't just assume that these drones are from this colony, because we've noticed that they just join up with any colony that happens to be on the move, and we don't fully understand why they do it. And here we are on the 19th of May, this morning. And they're all settled. They're all in there. They've taken up foraging behavior. The next thing we want to see, which is a question a lot of people have, can they bring in pollen? once they get situated. And do these queen excluders, or in my case we call them includers because we're keeping the queen in, do they cause the bees that are foraging to shed the pollen from their hind legs? And so we're going to get a close-up of them going through the queen excluders with pollen and see what's happening there. So remember, we're back at the top of our hive, and we see quite a bit of pollen coming in here. So it gives us a chance to take a close-up and see how difficult is it for them to get through. Now this particular queen entrance or landing board excluder comes from Dadant, D-A-D-A-N-T, and none of these queen entrance excluders are sponsored. None of them were given to me. This is all just so we can see what's going on, but I didn't see any pollen dropping off, and the fact that they brought in so much pollen meant that it was time to remove that queen includer from that one. So once you're sure they're settled, take your queen includer off the hive. I hope you found this video interesting, and I hope that you may have found some new uses for queen excluders as queen includers. I'm Frederick Dunn, and this has been The Way to Bee.